Hi, today I want to talk a little bit history. I'm not a history professor, but because I'm an ordinary South African, I tend to look for some things that history professors and teachers don't want to point out or don't think it's relevant or it's not in the syllabus. Somehow history seems to be manipulated in South Africa and we just don't get down to the truth, and we hate each other and we talk bad about each other, and there's a lot of circumstantial evidence, or let me rather rephrase that and say circumstances that happened during our past that has really an impact on how we see our future together. And today I want to look at this one battle. I think it's in Zilwantla, the picture to the right of the screen. But first I want to mention something that I saw on Google. Every time I go and I do a search, it's to me what Google presents to me on the first 10 listings is relevant on how the average South African perceives the information he's looking for. Now, what I did, let's just go there, give me a second. What I did is I was looking for interesting stories between the Boer and the Zulu. I know there's a lot. I grew up in a house that was rich with storytelling. But when I go to Google and I said search Boer and Zulu, I didn't put in their war, although that was the first option that came up as a suggestion for me. I just put Boer and Zulu, and all I get is war, war, war. And most of these wars was actually not between the Boer and the Zulu, it was actually between the British and the Zulu. So let us just look at this one war and see what is the relevance. Because we're doing history, I have to work with a what if scenario, because we don't have all the facts and we can't go back to the people and ask them what happened and why did it happen. So I have to contradict Wikipedia here with a what if scenario. They say ethnical, political and social tension among European colonial powers, indigenous Africans and English and Dutch settlers led to open conflict and a series of wars and revolts between 1879 and 1915 that would have lasting repercussions on the entire region of South Africa. Pursuit of commercial empires as well as individual aspirations, especially after the discovery of diamonds 1867 and gold 1886, were key factors driving these developments. What I read here the first time was that they class all Europeans in conflict with indigenous Africans. But when I read it again, I see no. They distinguish between the colonial powers having conflict with Africans, English and Dutch settlers. So it wasn't just a white on black thing. There was black on black actions, there was white on white actions, there was white on black actions. But the one that jumps up at me is this one here. I'm going to pause and I'm going to scroll down to it. Here we have one scenario. General Wolseley was openly against any notion of Boer independence and issued statements that gatherings in protest of the British rule could lead to prosecution for treason. So there was the first tension between Boers and Brits. But if you go and look carefully, you'll find that it's not only white on white. There was black siding with the Boers and there was black siding with the British. We'll get to that later. I just want to pause again. This was sidelining me. I'm already sidetracked again. I can't get to the regional message I wanted to give. Proclamation 14. Griekenland west after the Diamond Rush had been dominated by overwhelming influx of settlers and saw severe discriminatory laws arise already under the Independent Diggers Republic of Stafford Parker 1870-71 and direct British rule 1871-1880. Proclamation 14 August 1872 was a decree by British Imperial officials to pacify the Kimberley diggers and control black labour. It stated that servant could be black or white, but that all blacks must carry a pass with them all times to cross the Kimberley Pass point. So in 1872 already the British imposed a pass law. There's pass laws that was before this, but this wasn't against the Boers farming community and the black rural hunter-gathering community. That was direct conflict over mining rights and resources. Now look at the Dutch policy compared to the British policy. According to the strict corporate hierarchy of the Dutch East Indian Company, all Europeans in its overseas colonies were considered either company employees or vryburgers, free citizens. Free citizens were often former company employees who applied permission to retire in a given territory after completing their service contracts. They had to be Dutch citizens by birth, married, of good character, and committed to spending at least 20 years in South Africa, reflecting the multinational character of the company workforce. Some Germans were open to consideration as well, and in the late 1680s they were joined by the over 100 French Huguenots, refugees who had fled to the Netherlands following the Edict of Fontainebleau and had been subsequently resettled by the Dutch at the Cape. Now these are the South Africans that we are working with, the white South Africans we are working with. People that wanted to live in South Africa, not people that came here out of greed. But I'm looking for that one battle. That was the point I was making. Let me go and try and find the battle again. Now once again here, this is a very one-sided story. Because the Boers fled the Cape because of the border conflict and the British rule. They didn't like how the British was ruling. Now this guy writes that the 40 years there was a tentative peace among the British and the Zulus because the British didn't come this far up. The Boer-Zulu relationship continued to be one of great friction from the Battle of Blood River in 1838. We'll get back to the Battle of Blood River because there is some interesting misconceptions there as well. The Boers that they did, however, the British provided to care more about placating the Boers than they did concern themselves with the Zulu priorities. When the Zulus began pressuring them, the British under Sir Theophilus Shepstone, the Natal Secretary for Native Affairs, turned against the Zulu, and Shepstone began cabling London and Sichwayo regime needed to be removed and Zululand annexed. So here they used the Boer as an excuse, but actually what they wanted to do was annex Zululand. In July 1878, the High Commissioner Henry Bartle Frere, using Shepstone's assurance, began claiming that Natal was threatened by a possible Zulu invasion and pushed for war despite London's desire for patience and doing everything to prevent war. The lack of continuous line of communication from London to South Africa enabled Freire and Shepstone to push their agenda faster than London could react. Freire felt that the technological advantage of Lord Chelmsford's British army would bring a quick end to the conflict. Freire provoked war with an ultimatum to Cetewayo. Then he knew he would be unacceptable. He demanded the immediate disbanding of the Zulu army and the abolishment of the Zulu military system in 30 days to remove Cetewayo's base of power. Chelmsford crossed the Blood River on 11 January 1879 with 4,700 men. This was after the Boers had the battle with the Zulus at Blood River and gave the Zulus army a blood nose. Then the British came up and they felt very strong and thought that they can invade the Zulus. But we must remember that they came with 4,700 men. The Boer Blood River was fought by 430 or 470 white men, women and children and won. So that is a case of, what is, for the lack of a better word, excuse me, let me pause a little bit. There you go. This is how I want to say it. The Zulu army was a very powerful army, and the fact that they won many battles against the British on many fronts proved it. When they lost against the Boers at Blood River, it was fate that steered the history of the Boer and the Zulu nations in a direction. Because when you go a little bit deeper, you'll find that the British was always led by people on this side away from the colonial decision makers that was only driven by greed, where the Boers was just trying to flee away from the British rule to settle down and farm and raise their children in peace and harmony. But the British would never allow that. They were always scared for the Boers to control the power. And this is how the conflict situation starts. We can each take our bit of history and we can force it down the next person's throat, and we can say, no, this is what happened in history, but that's from your point of view. Then the next person can go and say, no, this is what happened to history, but that's from your point of view. The fact is, we are all together now in South Africa and we have to make this work. There is no political drive strong enough to drive the whites out of the country. On a daily basis, you see whites being killed, murdered, assaulted, robbed, but all those perpetrators are being arrested on a daily basis. So these aggressive armies that is used to go about killing innocent white people are gradually being depleted by the current law of South Africa, which is supposed to be a law that in a constitution that brings us together peacefully. The only way we can get over this is not to write off history, but to take the hate and the hubrism out of history and let us accept each other. Some of us want to live separate lives from other nations and cultures. Let's find a way to give them the place where they can do that. Others want to integrate, not necessarily on a political and a intermarriageal relations basis, just on an economical and a safety basis with other cultures and religions. So people, please, let us look on what we can do for the future of our children. and not what history brought to the hate and the hubrism in our hearts. Let us build a country together. Let us be proud of our history. We've all got flaws in our history. I can show out how brutal the black tribes was in Africa before the 1800s, during the 1800s, and after the 1800s. But I don't think I'm going to achieve my objective in the call for let us make a country together. If it has to be in separate residential areas, in separate schools, in separate languages, so be it. Let us just find a peaceful solution to cohabit this beautiful country, because the people that is enticing us to hate each other are after the resources of the country. Surely we can find a way among South Africans to share that resources so it is equally beneficial to everybody. We don't need to kill each other to become rich, to be powerful, to have money. There's workable solutions that we can work around these hate and the solutions that doesn't involve cooperation. Let's find cooperation. Let's find unity. Somewhere in our hearts, it is there. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to my channel. Like or dislike the video. Leave your comments. Thank you very much. BierPens signing off.